Joe Zekas from New Home Notebook. I'm sitting in the offices of Sheldon Good & Company with Julie Frist, who's a project manager. Julie, a lot of our viewers are new to the auction process and the terminology can be confusing. So if you could step me through some of the common terms that people see related to auctions, it would be a great help, I think, to us. Types of auctions to start with. What's meant by an absolute auction?
An absolute auction is when the seller says that they will sell the property absolute, regardless of the high bid. So no matter if it's a low or high number, the property will be sold in that round of bidding.
If it were $1 million property and the high bid was 25 cents?
Then it's absolute, so the seller would be obligated to sell.
Next type of auction would be a minimum bid auction.
A minimum bid auction is when the seller guarantees to sell the property at or above a specific number that's determined prior to the round of bidding.
And it would be published for the buyers to see?
It would be. It's a published minimum bid, and so therefore they know once the bidding level has reached or exceeded that number, it's going to be sold.
Reserve auction.
A reserve auction is when the seller has the right to accept or reject the high bid. So they're actually reserving their right to sell the property.
So the buyer may not know what the seller's reserve price is.
Exactly. Sometimes it's a printed reserve or a published reserve, other times it's undisclosed.
And would it be unusual for an auction to include both absolute minimum bid and reserve types of properties?
It's not unusual at all. You always know going into the auction what's being offered. So
one term that starts to get a bit confusing is high bidder's choice.
yes.
How does that work?
High bidder's choice, what that means is that at the auction, there will be a pool of properties put up on what we call an availability board. And when you're bidding, in that round of bidding, you'll know that if you're the high bidder, you get to select any of the properties listed on that availability board.
So there may be 3 units of the same type, and I could have my pick of the 3 based on my high bid.
Exactly. It could be all of the 3 bedrooms up on the board. It could be all of the 2 bedrooms. It could be all of the units that have a similar minimum bid. They'll all have similar attributes, and therefore, once you're the high bidder, you get to select whichever one you would want.
Typically, prior to an auction, there's an open house or a series of open houses.
Yes.
And a term I see is open house guide. Describe to me what that would entail.
When buyers come to the open house, we provide them with a lot of information. They're going to get from us an availability list. And what that includes is a description of the property available in all of the properties that will be offered at that auction. So for instance, it may tell the number of bedrooms and bathrooms. It'll tell the person what that particular, each condominium the minimum bid is for that property. It'll also tell what the monthly assessments and the taxes are. And so they'll have that to refer to as they go through the property. We'll also provide them with floor plans for each of the units and then information on financing as it's available to them.
Okay. At some point, I'm going to want even more information, and I see the term bidder's information packet.
Yes. Once you've made the determination that the auction or the open house that you're attending is for you, then you'll want to purchase our bidder information packet, and that includes all the due diligence that you'd want to know as a new owner in that building. So it would have the HOA documents, the homeowners association documents, the purchase and sale agreement, the terms of the sale, and more information on how the properties would be bid the day of the auction.
Okay. Is it required that I have a bidder's information packet before I come to the auction?
Well, you are correct. It is a requirement to purchase a bidder information packet prior to the auction. We always encourage people to get them as soon as possible because at an auction, your bid is not contingent upon anything. So if you want to have a friend or an attorney review the information for you, you can do that prior to the auction. Therefore, you come to the auction knowing what you're bidding on.
The final term I'd like to ask you about is buyer's premium.
The buyer's premium is a fee that's added to the high bid price to get your total purchase price. And what that is, it's a fee that's paid back to the seller to help them recoup some of their marketing costs. In an auction, the seller's paying all the marketing costs up front, and so that goes to help them recoup some of those costs since they're selling the properties at a discount. For instance, what would happen is if your high bid is $100,000 and you were to add a buyer's premium of 10%, you'd add an additional $10,000 to that high bid to make a total purchase price of $110,000.
Give me some idea, Julie, of the typical range of buyer's premiums that you'd see at real estate auctions.
Well, buyer's premiums range anywhere from 3% up to 10% in most real estate auctions.